Iowa State came into Austin and they beat Texas Friday, and that was a big deal in and of itself. Iowa State, fly clones fly. They're going to the Big 12 title game, and that's good for me and people of my ilk because we pull for Iowa State. However, a lot of you, in fact, I look at our traffic, probably a 10-to-1 ratio, more of you pull for the Longhorns than the Iowa State Cyclones, and that's fine. It's always been us against the world, hasn't it? But Texas falls to Iowa State, and here are the questions that I would ask, because a lot of you are already asking them. So a few months ago, seems like, I guess it was a couple months ago now, when they lost to Oklahoma, they being Texas, I thought it was done. Called the game a must-win. Tom Herman and company lost the game. I thought it was done at that point. Here are my reasons. Nothing has changed. Nothing had changed before this. Really, nothing changed against Iowa State. It's just it seems a lot more people that were on the fence have been pushed over that side of the fence to my side of thinking now. Is the identity clearly defined? Like, these are all questions that should be yeses at Texas. Is the identity clearly defined? I would answer no at Texas. Is it being executed effectively by default? The second answer there is no. Is the culture there conducive to success? That's a resounding no for me. Is recruiting at an elite level? Certainly that's a no right now. Even in state, it's a no. And are we comparable to other Tier 1 programs on the field? They're not even Tier 1 in the Big 12 right now. So no, they're not comparable to the other Tier 1s in college football. And if any or all of those answers are no, my final question would be, is there anything internal at Texas in terms of lack of resources or anything institutionally that is keeping you from making those answers yes? And I don't think there's a problem there, at least along those lines. The head coach at Texas right now is Tom Herman, has everything and then some that he needs to succeed. He hasn't gotten it done, and so I told you after the Oklahoma game, I was convinced that that was it. I was really convinced before that, but if you need the results on the field, that was it. And I said it was done following OU, and I still believe that now. They won at Oklahoma State, didn't really care. Iowa State, whether they had won or lost Saturday, I didn't care, but I understand this is the real world, and so ultimately, you got to build a resume for and against, so a lot of you needed to see that loss. Well, now you've seen it. Texas isn't close. Texas is not getting any closer, and I don't think under the current regime there they will get any closer. So you got senior quarterback recruiting. You see a mass exodus of in-state talent. So I could make the argument they're as close as they'll ever be. If anyone out there wants to counter with, well, there's progress, there's incremental progress. No, they're as close as they're going to be under this current regime. So I am a proponent to make a move out there, and I don't talk about that very loosely on this show. Remember the rule, though, because anytime we do kind of poke around and prod around and hint around about coaching moves, we, on a Late Kick, are only a proponent of making a move if you have a definitively better option already on the table that you've got a verbal agreement from. Do they have that? That's the multi-million-dollar question at this point. I believe they will have that. I believe that big money will certainly be backing that by default. And I also believe Chris Del Conte, who is the athletic director there, is ready to make a move. Remember, it's very important. I've seen Chip and the folks over at Horns 24/7 reminding the subscribers over there of this, and I'll reiterate what he said. This was not a Chris Del Conte hire. Tom Herman was not his hire, and that's pretty widely known. It's also very important to note this. When they won the Sugar Bowl in 2018, a lot of these presidents or big money folks and athletic directors, they get fleeced, totally and completely fleeced by agents. And Texas got fleeced by Herman's agent, which I believe is Trace Armstrong. I'm not hating on Trace Armstrong. I do the same thing. If I could draw extra millions of dollars out of your pockets, you better believe I'd do it. I'd do it 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. And so after the Sugar Bowl, Herman and his representation want an extension. There's no reason to extend him. He's not going anywhere. Where was he going? He's not going anywhere. And yet they extended him just because when you print money, it's not that big a deal. It's really, we talked about this on the podcast the other day. It's really not that big a deal. It's like South Carolina with Muschamp. You want some more money? Okay, we'll just give you more money. It's like, where was Will Muschamp going? Nowhere? Doesn't matter. He was frowning, and so we want him to smile, so we're going to give him some more money. Well, Chris Del Conte was not on board with that at the time. So I don't feel at all like maybe from afar you view it this way, but when you get on the ground in Austin, this is not some athletic director married and attached at the hip with the head coach. No. So I believe all the factors are in play here. Let me be clear. Urban Meyer is the number one candidate by 10 miles. You go after Urban Meyer, you ask and ask and ask until he can't say no to you. You make it happen. You do exactly what Alabama did with Nick Saban, and you guys tried to do with Nick Saban. You failed there. You need to succeed here. Urban Meyer needs to be the head coach at Texas. That's your guy. Selfishly, I'd love to see it happen. Everyone in our business would love to see it happen. But I also want Texas to be really good. The sport, some people say, is not as good with this program down or that program down. Most of the time, that's a mirage. Most of the time, the health of college football is going to be just fine whether your team's good or not. And the health of college football is fine now. I'm just saying it would take, the shock panels when you're trying to revive someone. That's kind of what it would do to college football. It would give a lot more life, especially to the Big 12. Because right now, it's kind of, even in college football terms, the Big 12 has kind of become flyover country. And to be honest with you, it's not even flyover country. It's kind of like a dead end sign. Because no one's going to the West Coast to talk about anything either. We're just being completely honest with ourselves. And so people get to about Fayetteville, Arkansas, and then they kind of say, all right, well, this is where the Big 12 starts. So this is where the edge of the world is for college football right now. And they turn back around and they go to the Midwest and the South. And I don't want it that way. So I'd love to see Urban Meyer there. Nothing about the remainder of 2020 is going to change this either, by the way. So I would suggest if you're a Texas fan and you're on board with that line of thinking and you think Urban Meyer is your guy, which I do, I would advise you to root hard for USC. Because I don't think Notre Dame's coming open. And it's pretty widely speculated out there that Notre Dame, USC, Texas, those are the only places that Urban Meyer would even entertain coming back to the sport for. Notre Dame's not going anywhere, obviously. Just root for Clay Helton at USC. Keep him in that chair as long as you can so that you don't have any competition on the market out there. And if Urban Meyer is not the head coach at Texas, it's just because he didn't want to coach, period. It's not because some other job and some other suitor out there outbid you or put together a better package. And listen, even if those other jobs did come open, Texas is the place. Like, out of those jobs, Texas is the place. So again, like I said about 2020, when you look down the road a little bit, you've got a game at Kansas State this Saturday. I think Texas opened as a little over a touchdown favorite. Couldn't care less what happens there. They play Kansas to end the year. Couldn't care less what happens there. Nothing about the future of this program is going to change one way or the other based on the final 2 weeks. Make your decision, and we have pretty strong indication and reason to believe it's going to happen this week, a decision. Not maybe publicly, but a decision. Make it now. Be convicted in it. I would suggest you should have already made it, but let's let the past be the past, and let's let the future be now. I think that was a Joe Dirt quote.